We switch, well, we don't totally switch gears. We're still going to stay on the issue of politics and guns and everything else that's happening in Washington, D.C. We bring on Congressman Jodey Arrington. Congressman.
Chad.
How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm thinking about this, finally getting the budget to a vote on the House floor, which is, I don't know what it's like to give birth. And if I acted like I did and my wife heard me talking, she would...
I was about to say, you're about to get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm going to stop right there. Let's just say I'm happy we have it here teed up, and I think we're going to get it through, and that's a big deal for all of us.
I just want to let you know, because if you would have kept going, the Huffington Post would have picked this up, and the New York Times would have picked it up and gone, "Oh, Congressman, this man compares past." Yeah. Well, let's talk about the budget before we get into the guns and what happened in Vegas, and also there's been a lot of other things happening, I know, in D.C. Talk about the budget process, how it's going, what all we're seeing in the budget.
Well, it's been quite a process. We finally have regular order, some semblance of it. It's been 14 years since we've had appropriations go through regular order, and to have a budget, we're doing business the way we should be doing business. It's a good conservative budget. It doesn't give me everything I would like, but it does put a big down payment on rebuilding the military. It begins to reduce our deficit spending and get at our national debt. Cut $200 billion from mandatory spending, the most cuts from mandatory, which is the debt driver that we've seen in 20 years. And it's a budget that balances. It's a budget that is also initiating tax reform, which, if we're going to get out of this debt hole, we're going to have to grow the economy, and I think that is the key driver of that. So a lot of things wrapped up in this. Very proud of the work we did, and then let's just stay tuned to what happens in the Senate. I'm learning that lots of good things go to the Senate to languish and even die. I hope that's not the case with this. We'll keep pushing.
I'm sure a lot of people would like to know, is there anything and something that I'm sure the president would like to know, what about border wall funding? How is that in the budget?
It is. You've got funding for physical structures there, wall fence, and then I'm a co-sponsor on a border security bill with Michael McCall, fellow Texan and chairman of Homeland Security, where there's significant spending on that. Again, I'm for the sort of all the above strategy for stopping illegal immigration and securing our border, and that includes people, that includes technology, but also physical structures. And if you talk to anybody, a Border Patrol agent on the ground, on the front lines, they'll tell you that, especially in densely populated areas like Laredo, where I was, you've got to have physical structures to slow these guys down so you can put hands on them and so they can do their job.
Congressman, we're going to take the break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with you, if you can stay through the break, that is.
You got it. Yeah,
all right.
You got it.
When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Congressman Jodey Arrington here on the Chad Hasty Show. Back on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO. Congressman Jodey Arrington joining us on the phone this morning. And Congressman, one of the bills that y'all passed in the House was an abortion bill. It would have restricted abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. This is I would think, a major piece of legislation passed out of the House.
Look, short of relitigating Roe v. Wade, which I thought was in error by the courts in their ruling, at a minimum, this should be a state-by-state decision. But and hopefully courts will switch in time. We know that's one of the biggest advantages of having a Donald Trump as president during this season in the life of this country. But yeah, this makes it, this is going to advance a culture of life. And I believe that the unborn person has the same rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and this just restricts it like Texas did, Chad. I mean, this now applies to all the states if we can get it to the president's desk. I think that 60% of the American people support this. It limits abortions after 20 weeks. And it's really sad to know that that America is in the same group as North Korea and China on this, that we are one of only 7 developed countries that don't have this limitation. So it's really sad that we're in the moral equivalent of these rogue nations. Our values ought to be stronger. America ought to be better in terms of what we owe to the rest of the world.
Well, it has to get through the Senate, and that's been a problem lately for things moving out of the House and going to the Senate.
That's right.
What do you think the chances are of this going through in the Senate?
I used to make all kinds of prognostications with the Senate. I'm going to start getting out of that business. I hear that there's some bipartisan support there that reflects the public sentiment. You got to get to that 60 threshold. I don't know, Chad, if they've got it in them. And we've sent a lot of pro-life legislation. I'm proud to have co-sponsored, including defunding Planned Parenthood, not giving them money for abortions, but defunding abortion providers. That was built into the American Health Care Act, the legislation to repeal Obamacare, and they couldn't even get that out. So, look, I'm not going to hold my breath on it, but I'm going to continue to push and encourage I know that Senator Cornyn and Cruz, our senators, will be working it hard, and I know they believe strongly the way we believe on this issue.
Congressman, you also have another veterans piece of legislation out, correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what's cool about this is it's just bipartisan. People talk about we don't have enough bipartisanship. Well, I think soon to be 7 of the 8 bills that I will have introduced are with a Democrat. So, and we've done probably the most work as a Congress, I'm talking about House and Senate, on veterans issues. This is another opportunity to put some common sense into the VA, which, it needs a big dose of that. And we'll make, with some simple changes, we'll make it easier for companies to offer apprenticeship for veterans. And, the goal for our veterans is to give them the tools to, when they transition from deployment, they can transition to employment here. And one of the almost 100% guarantee are the apprenticeship programs in this GI Bill sort of umbrella, this education opportunity umbrella for veterans. So I'm excited about it. Ro Khanna's become a good friend, and we don't believe the same on a lot of things, but what we do believe on together, man, we hold hands and we walk forward and we try to bring everybody with us. I think this is going to go all the way to the president's desk.
Congressman, we had a texter earlier who wanted to know when they heard that you were going to be on the show, what the status is of the term limit bill that you and I believe it was a congressman out of California, correct?
Yeah, it's the same guy. It's Ro Khanna.
Okay.
I'm talking about for this apprenticeship program initiative. We have met recently with several of us as a freshman class. I'll tell you the strategy. It's a good question. I'm glad he's asking. That you can only, have your eyes on so many balls right now. It's been healthcare reform, tax reform, but I feel strongly about this term limit deal. We've got a group of freshmen that represent the different caucuses here. You've got Freedom Caucus, Tuesday group. You've got a Democrat with Ro Khanna. So we're going to go to the president. We've been talking to the White House. We want to go to the president and say, support this freshman class, support the Drain the Swamp initiative that you ran on and that we ran on. And if we can get him to endorse our legislation, man, I have great hopes that we can actually get this thing done. So that's the strategy, and I'll keep you up to speed as it develops.
Yesterday, obviously, with what happened in Las Vegas, you were quoted in the AJ. I know you said we don't want any knee-jerk reactions. Yesterday, Dianne Feinstein introduced a piece of legislation that would ban, among other things, bump stocks, which apparently this Las Vegas shooter used. Senator Cornyn said that he would like to have hearings on this. It looks like Republicans and Democrats are sort of aligning on wanting to ban this bump stock. What are your thoughts on it? What do you know about it? And do you think this is the direction we're moving?
Well, there's a few things I want your listeners to know and my constituents. Number one, with regard to Dianne Feinstein and others, I mean, there are folks who have an agenda to infringe on our fundamental rights to keep and bear arms. I mean, they're gun control advocates, and so they're going to seize this opportunity. The reason I know that is because we're still trying to get the facts in this case, and we're still reeling emotionally from the loss of life. I mean, it was just unthinkable what happened, and so people that rush into a situation like this with a public policy solution to something this early, that concerns me. But look, what we need to do is we need to let the law enforcement work this case, get the facts. We need to deal with facts. But I'm a strong Second Amendment supporter. That's a high threshold when you believe in inalienable God-given rights like speech, religion, and to protect ourselves. Don't want to make it any harder for us to be able to protect ourselves and our families. But I think we just wait and we let this thing develop, and that's kind of where I am right now. We cannot make these knee-jerk reaction, emotional decisions. I think people that have agendas are wading into this, and I'm very suspect of that. So those are my thoughts at this point.
Congressman, appreciate your time. We'll visit with you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Chad. God bless.
Have a good one. That's Congressman Jodey Arrington.